Hello again, art classes. It's Mr. K here, once again out in the garage, and today we are going to make some artwork in the style of an artist. We're going to learn about that artist and copy his style. His name is Vasily Kandinsky. He was a Russian abstract artist from the early 1900s. We're going to learn a little bit about what does abstract mean and what was his style and how can we make some artwork just like his.
Kandinsky worked in a style of art we would call abstract. When something is abstract, it doesn't look like something else. It only looks like forms, shapes, lines. It doesn't look like a house or a tree or a car. Kandinsky also had a very rare condition called synesthesia, where he could actually hear colors or see sounds. So a particular musical note might look yellow to him. When he created these abstract artworks, it was like he was creating a symphony instead of just a painting. The artwork we're going to copy today is this work from Kandinsky with circles. He was experimenting all the time, trying to find new ways of creating images. And that's what we're going to do today also with our materials, is we're going to see what we have at home and try to do some experimenting to come up with our new circles that we're going to do. Our standard that we're working with today is to explore the different uses of materials and tools to create art. And our objective for this is to create artwork in Kandinsky's style while experimenting with our supplies.
So we are going to need some materials for this. Now, today that's going to be a little bit different than usual because we're going to do some experimenting with our materials. You're going to kind of figure out what works for you. One thing you will need is some sort of paper. If you have some really nice art paper, that'd be great. If you don't, I'm just using regular old copy paper. In class, what we usually do with this project is we have some crayons and some watercolor paints, and of course a brush and some sort of a cup with some water in it. You're probably going to need some version of this. You probably have crayons. That's going to be one thing you're definitely going to be wanting to use. You could also use colored pencils, not a problem. You might not have watercolors. That's okay. We have a good fix for this. Food coloring. You can use food coloring instead of watercolors. You can blend your own colors. They don't take much. You're going to use just a little tiny bit. If you don't have either of those, you could also use some markers or some highlighter pens. We're going to talk a little bit about how we could do some of those things even while we're doing the lesson. Don't feel like you have to do every single thing I'm talking about. Don't feel like you have to do it a particular way. It's your job to do some experimenting with this today. I would love to hear back from some people if they could tell me that they came up with a different way that we didn't talk about. Let's get to it. So yesterday I did a sample using food coloring just to kind of test it out, see how it works. I did a whole bunch of squares with a whole bunch of circles and tried as many different things as I possibly could. You are more than welcome to do that many squares. If you just want to do a few, that's up to you. However you want it to look is also up to you. So what we are going to need are some squares. Let me get rid of my old one. And the easiest way to do this is to just go ahead and fold your paper. So I'm going to fold it in half one way. And if you fold it at the other direction, kind of hot dog way first, that's okay. I fold it like that. And I'm going to fold it up this way. Now today I'm just going to use 4 squares so you can see it a little bit better. And all you have to do is unfold it, kind of just fold it back a little bit the way you folded it already. Kind of undo those creases so you don't get, see he kind of wants to go like this. It looks like a bird. And just kind of gently fold it back. That way it's nice and flat. I'm just going to do 4. If you want to do more, what you're going to do is once you folded it those 4 times, fold it 2 more times, over and over again. It's up to you how many times you want to fold it. I'm just going to do these 4 here. So our next step is we're going to use our crayons first, whatever colors of crayons you want. Whoa, that's a little too much. Maybe you want to leave them in the box. So we can make a bunch of circles. Now, the one thing about this that looks a little crazy at first, if you haven't done this, done a wax resist before, is the white one is your secret weapon, because it doesn't look like anything when you do it at first. We'll see why it's your secret weapon later. It's going to make it really look cool. So I'm going to, in each square, I'm going to make a bunch of circles. Let's see here. I'm just going to start. If you want to start small on the inside, make a dot and get another color. And you could have the colors touch each other. You could make it a small circle. You could make it a really big circle. Maybe there's a little bit of room in between there. Maybe I want to make it a really thick circle. It's got some space in there. And then I'll do the white crayon and show you what I mean about the secret weapon and all of this. It's going to make it look super cool. Now, I didn't color every single little bit of this, and that's okay, because we're going to go over it with our watercolors or our food coloring. I'm going to make a thin white circle around here. I can kind of see a little shininess on there. That's the only way I can see it. That's okay. It's going to get fixed up in a little bit when we do our watercolors. So I'm just going to go away from that, give it some space. Whoops, that's okay. If you remember Kandinsky's from his, they were not exactly perfect. Some of them weren't even round. They kind of squared off in the corners. We don't mind that at all. Do a thin one around here. How about one more with the, do the light green. We got the dark green in the middle. This very light green out here. Sometimes it's close to, I kind of like that, how it's touching here but not over here. Okay. Now, if I were just doing watercolors, I would probably go ahead and do all my crayons first, and then take whatever type of watercolors I have, dip into my water. Let's see here, which color do I want to use? I'm going to go with a nice bright, I'm going to go with something I don't have in here. And I don't have a whole lot of blue. I have this blue over here. You know what? I was using white paint on this brush, and I didn't clean it out that well. Let me clean that out. You gotta make sure you clean your brushes and clean your watercolors. There, now it should be fine. So get a little bit of water. Now, one thing, if you're using not watercolor paper, just regular old paper like this, you don't wanna go over it a whole bunch of times because it's gonna ruin the paper. It's not gonna hold up. So we wanna go over it lightly. And just kind of go over it. Now see, the wax gets rid of the water. It repels the water. It won't keep it there. Oh, and look where that white is. It keeps it just plain white over there. That's what I mean by that's our secret weapon. There. Now it's not totally even. It's like a darker blue here, a lighter blue here. That's totally fine. If we start mixing different watercolors in here, you're going to get too much water, it's going to get too soaked, and the paper is going to completely fall apart. Try to just go over it once, maybe twice, and be done. But what about if you don't have watercolors? You might have some food coloring around at home. Now this one here, this particular food coloring I have just has, doesn't want to come out, just has 4 colors, and that's all. It has green, yellow, blue, and red. And I think for the one I'm doing, I'm going to use a yellow. I think that would, I made a circle here in this square. Now, all you're going to need to do, they're very, very powerful. There's not much of it. All you need is one tiny little drop. Maybe for yellow, you could do 2, because it's such a light color, but for the other ones, you're just going to use 1 drop. Now I've got another cup of just plain clean water here, Now, if I just use my food coloring and don't water it down at all, it's super, super powerful. It's gonna completely overpower it. The other thing is maybe you don't have any brushes at home. I'm gonna show you how to do this using a paper towel instead. Now, if I took my paper towel and dipped it in here in the yellow and I put it on, that's pretty bright, and I don't know that it's really gonna work with the crayon. Let's find, you know, I haven't tried that before. Let's try it, see what happens. I've got some crayon, I've got some straight food coloring. It will work. Yellow would probably work the best. The other ones are gonna overpower it a bit. If we take a little tiny bit of water, it does not take much. That's probably good, right there. I don't know if you can see that very well. Yeah, you can tell. There's just a little bit of water in there. I'm gonna stir it around a little bit. Swirl it in there. Get a nice clean part of my paper towel. Kind of wrap my finger around it. You're probably gonna get your fingers a little bit messy. You might want to find a cup or a bowl or something small. If you have one of those kind of little paint palettes like this, these work great for it. I thought I'd show you with something that wasn't just plain old art materials though. I'm gonna dip in here and get a little bit on my finger. I don't have to rub hard. I can just barely touch this paper. Now look how much lighter that one is than the other one. And you can really see that. It doesn't take long to do that either. And if I go over it a whole bunch of times, again, I'm gonna ruin that paper. You can see the white ones in there. And if you rub and scrub it a whole lot, you might rub the crayons off completely. So with the watercolors or the food coloring, best thing is just go ahead and just stop at a certain point. So the other thing we can do for this is if you don't have any food coloring and you don't have any watercolors, you can use some highlighter markers or just plain markers. Probably want to go with a lighter color if you have regular old markers. Highlighters, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with my orange one since I don't have that here. These aren't going to work over the top of crayons. That's just going to mess up your highlighter, and it's not going to resist like these do. It's just going to actually cover it. So if you're using highlighters, you can just kind of go around the edge and color your square first. And get in there and go ahead and color the whole thing. Now that we've got a full square of one color, we can go ahead and put in some other colors on top of it for our circle. I'm going to leave just a hole in the middle this time. I can color right over the top of it. Maybe you have colored pencils and you want to use those instead. Maybe you want to use different markers. You have Sharpies, you have anything, really. Go ahead and try some stuff. Maybe have a piece of paper where you just test out some ideas first and then go for it and see which things work and which things don't, because it'd be a real bummer to get almost all the way and you got one square left and then you try something and it kind of doesn't work and it falls apart. If that does happen, you could cut these squares out and paste them onto another paper and glue them down. So there's always a way around it. It's never going to be ruined. It's never going to, you know, it only works if you say it doesn't. It doesn't work if you say it doesn't work. So you can do whatever you want with it. Test it all out. Try whatever you want. See which colors work. The white may or may not show up depending on your, yeah, this one you can't really see it. Might not show up. Maybe you have a better white, maybe a white colored pencil will work a bit better. That's getting a little bit better. You gotta really get in there, and there's a little bit of blue there from another time I colored that was on the crayon. It looks kind of cool like that. So don't be afraid to get in there, try some stuff out, make it look however you want it to look. I wonder what orange on orange would look like. That's interesting. I didn't know that that would really work very well. Almost looks like brown. So go ahead, test it all out, do your thing, see what works, See what doesn't work for you. Try some new things. Test it all out. And make it look like your artwork. I will see you guys next time. Go ahead and make as many of these as you want with tiny little squares, great big squares. Maybe make a mix of that. And I would love to hear from you guys and see some of this artwork later on. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.